Jesus begins this gospel, which is taken from the words that he spoke to the apostles at the Last Supper, by saying, "Do not let your hearts be troubled." And we say that's easier said than done, because there's often many things that cause our hearts to be troubled, things that we worry about, even though Jesus says, "Do not worry." Things that we even have anxiety about. And cause great distress. Maybe we even have trouble sleeping about things. But Jesus says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled." And why is that? One of my classmates, who is a priest in Colorado Springs, was describing to me one time his pilgrimage to Medjugorje, where the Blessed Virgin Mary, they say, has been appearing to 6 children there. And while he was at Mass one of the evenings in the Church of St. James, he said he was just overwhelmed with an experience of the love of God for him. And he fell to his knees in the pew and began to cry or to weep even. And he said, "The next day I just had this sense that there was really nothing at all in the world to worry about. I was so full of joy." And the message that day from the Blessed Virgin Mary was, "If you knew how much I loved you, you would weep with tears of joy." And I think those are the words of God the Father, though, to us. There is no reason to be troubled or to worry if we know how much God the Father loves us. Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." Pope John Paul II, St. John Paul, would always say, Jesus is the answer to every problem and question that we might have in this world. Every major concern and problem, the solution is Jesus Christ. And so he's inviting us to bring it to Jesus in prayer. And whatever you ask in my name, my Father will grant it, Jesus says. And then he goes on to say, "If you have seen me, you have seen the Father." Perhaps we have a close relationship to Jesus in prayer, where we feel like we can talk to Jesus and he speaks to us. But what about God the Father? Can we say that we are close to God the Father in prayer, that we can speak to him and listen to him? Sometimes we wonder, what would God the Father have said or done if he were here on earth? Well, we don't have to wonder. We just look at Jesus. Whatever Jesus says, that's what God the Father is saying. Whatever he does, that's what God the Father does. The Catechism says to call God Father means we come to know God based on the experience of our own parents, our own father and mother. But we also know that our human parents are fallible. They're not perfect. And they can disfigure the face of fatherhood and motherhood. But God the Father is the origin and standard of all human fatherhood. In other words, God is the perfect Father, the loving Father. No one is Father as God is Father. Jesus tells the story of the prodigal son who goes off and takes his father's inheritance ahead of time and spends it all and foolishly wastes it, and then comes back returning home. What would that be like if we did that and our own dad found out about it? If we spent all his money and maybe, let's say, we wrecked his car too, his Buick, and then came home, what would he say? Well, in this story, the father runs out to meet the son and embraces him and forgives him. He is happy to have him back home, safe and sound. And there's the older son in the story that does not yet know about the love of the Father. He says, "Not once have I disobeyed your orders, yet you haven't even given me a goat to celebrate with my friends." He doesn't appreciate the love of the Father. He sees him more as a master. And the Father pleads with him and says, "Everything I have is yours. You are my beloved Son." There was a book written by a psychologist called Faith of the Fatherless, and he said, "I wonder, with all the atheists that are very prominent in our society in our times, what was their own relationship to their father like? And he found that almost all of them, their father was not a loving presence in their lives, or was extremely abusive or angry or emotionally distant or absent, even abandoning the family. And their conclusion was, I don't believe in God the Father. In other words, I don't believe in love. And they became atheists. It shows us the importance of receiving the love of the Father in order to know the love of God the Father. St. Therese says, I believe in love. She was aware of how great God's love was for her as a father to his beloved daughter. In the experience of my own dad, I was not always close to him. Oftentimes he would get angry and fly off the handle, and there would be a temptation to just withdraw and not do anything to make him upset. At the end of his life, though, as he was in the nursing home, he said to me, I'm sorry, I wasn't a very good father. And it was an invitation for forgiveness. And then in prayer, after he passed away, I had the experience of him saying to me, I love you, son. And realizing only my dad can say that to me, and only I can hear that from him. But really, those are the words of God the Father that we desire to hear, to bless us, as he says, you are my beloved daughter, with whom I am well pleased. Or you are my beloved son, with whom I am well pleased. The Father says, you are with me always, everything I have is yours. In our prayer today, we ask, Jesus, give me a taste of Abba, the Father's love for me.